Right. Well, everybody, I'm so glad that you're all here today. This is our Health Professions Advising at Prep series, and we're continuing today with the All About Casper, Cura, and AAMC tests. Got some new guests coming in. Awesome. I want to give a shout out that we have a special guest here today. We have Manisha, who's our director here at Health Professions Advising. Manisha, can you give us a wave? Thanks for being here. Super appreciate you. I'm Jenny. I'm an advisor here at Health Professions. And so I hope to get the chance to work with all of you individually. I'll go over our contact information for individualized advising at the end of this presentation. So just to give a quick rundown of what we're going to cover today, we're going to go through just a little bit of the history of ethics in health professions, and then we'll dive into how we all make ethical decisions. I just want to really normalize these situational judgment tests and say, all of you are making ethical decisions all the time. You have a good head on your shoulders. You wouldn't have gotten to this point if you hadn't. So what I'm talking about today is formalities of how to participate in these assessments. But I just want to say that I'm coming from a point of view of believing that you're ready for this. You've been preparing all your academic careers. You've gained lots of experience. You have lots of lived experience, and that all comes to bear as you make ethical decisions. So these situational judgment tests, like the Casper, the PREview, and the Cura, will just be an opportunity for you to show your eventual professional schools that you know how to handle decisions. And I also threw in Duet because that is another exam that's connected with Casper. I'm just going to admit one for, oh, thanks. So for frame of reference, this whole idea of talking about ethics in person-centered professions, that's been around for a long time. Anybody ever heard of the Hippocratic Oath? That's been around since the 5th century BC. And when you, some of you, when you start medical school, you'll stand together with your class and take the Hippocratic Oath together in your white coat ceremony. Back in 1803, the English physician Thomas Percival set out a code of ethics and professional duties and ideal behavior relative to hospitals and other charities. So this idea has been around for a while. The actual founding of the American Medical Association was really all about establishing a code of ethics and standardizing training. So as you participate in these type of assessments, you're participating in a long-standing tradition that is part of your field. And that's sort of why professional organizations form, is in order to let the public know what they're getting. Make sure that in your profession, you're known to be well-trained and to hold a set of ethics. And these ethics continue to evolve. As recently as 2001, there was an update to say the physicians should support access to medical care for all people. So if you wanted to know more about codes of ethics, here, let me grab a link to put in the chat for you. Oops. Here you go. This first link is to us at HPA if you need more resources, but the next three are to the professional codes of ethics for some of your potential health professional professions. So when we look at those ethical codes, some features stand out. Uh, Um, Often they are dealing with patient autonomy. People have the right to decide for themselves. Non-maleficence, not doing harm. You've heard that in the Hippocratic Oath, right? First, do no harm. Beneficence, being positively disposed towards people, and justice. And while each of these principles is of high value, often we run into situations where these principles conflict and overlap with each other and need to find a balance in actual practical application. And that's where these situational judgment tests come in. Um, and that's why there's never one answer to a situational judgment test, because the way that you balance two good things deserves an explanation. And you'll come at it from your perspective based on your academics, your lived experience, and your professional experience. This might be helpful to refer back to as you start to prepare. These are some steps you might take in making ethical decisions. So when you're walking someone through how and why you made a decision, you want to sort of spot what the issue is in the question, and maybe identify all the issues that are involved in a given question. Some resources that you will have as professionals to solve these dilemmas in real life would be like, you could ask your professional organization, hey, could I have another look at that codes? Or you could reach out to professionals in your field and ask, what are the laws that are relevant in this situation? Obtaining consultations. None of your health professions will you do in a vacuum. You'll have a big, big team to reach out to and ask. And as you're answering these type of situational judgment tests, you can refer to people that you would like to include in your decision making. You can say, like, I would like to ask the people that were on duty the night before. You can say, I would like to ask the health professional that sees this client for another component of their treatment. As you're working your way through an ethical decision, you'll find that there were lots of different ways you could have handled it. And you might want just work through like what could happen if you went down any of those routes. And finally, you'll decide on and state like what appears to be the proper course of action or the action that you would choose. So I want to sort of preview and give a shout out to our future programming. We do a lot of work here at HPA to support you in preparing for multiple mini interviews. When you're in a multiple mini interview, this is the simple 4-point outline of a strong answer. Step 1, repeat the question. Step 2, and this is the most important part, answer the question. And you can involve stories from your life, right? So you probably haven't made decisions about like allocating organs for transplant, right? And choosing which patient would receive such a donation. But there may be some place in your life where you have allocated limited resources and talked that decision through, say, like with a club, if the club wanted to do a couple of different things, you had to agree as a group on how to allocate limited resources. So you could bring in an example that's relevant to the type of decision making that you're talking through in an MMI question or in one of these situational judgment tests. And then we like for you always to end by projecting forward. You want to talk about the relevance of this question to your future career. Demonstrate that you get it. Like, I recognize that in my future career, I'm going to face questions about integrity, and talk about how you'll handle it. It's a great way to help your interviewers understand that you're looking forward and that you are going to rely on your ethical foundation as you go into professional school and your eventual career. Yeah, so shout outs to our pre-dental MMIs coming up this Friday in person. At that HPA link that I gave you at the top of the chat, you can go there to register for that. And then keep an eye on our webpage, our calendar, and our newsletter. Hope you're subscribed. And keep your eye out for interview week. We'll do a lot of practice of MMIs. All right, so diving into these situational judgment tests, they're a type of assessment that give you like a dilemma and ask you to talk through how you would solve that dilemma. And this is really important. Why would you solve it that way? It's a way of showing your perspective, your values and beliefs, and how they manifest when the rubber meets the road. It helps your eventual professional schools get a sense of your behavioral tendencies. What do you prioritize? How do you solve problems? How do you consult with legal codes and colleagues? How do you listen to patients and prioritize their needs? How do you balance two good things? So the examples of these situational judgment tests are the assessments that we're going to talk about now: Casper, Kira, and the AAMC PREview. And I may have used the word test just now, but calm down. This is a formality. It's not a test in the sense of, do you know all of this material? It's an assessment of what you already know. Like I said, our frame of reference is that you have good judgment. You might practice speaking and do some practice questions, pr practice thinking through and preparing to answer a question, but fundamentally you are okay. This is a formality. Don't pay for online sources of support. They are a scam. You can't prepare. Your morality and your good judgment is already onboarded. You're adults. Okay, so here's our first actual type of assessment that we're going to talk through. We're going to talk through the Casper. So that stands for Computer-Based Assessment for Sampling Personal Characteristics. So that's there comes your CASP, and then just we say Casper to make it cute. I don't know, to make it sound like a friendly ghost. It's a situational judgment test, and it asks, what would you do in a tough situation? And more importantly, why? It helps determine your behavioral tendencies that are super important as you pursue these people-centered professions. So they might ask questions about your empathy or your collaboration. They might ask questions about your professionalism or your resilience. All of these are qualities that you have built into you already. We might do some practice to think of stories that illustrate this in your life and how to show the direct line from your values or your ethics to your behavior, but these values you already have on board. So a little bit of Casper timeline. You'll register at Acuity Insights, which actually just reminds me to say, there's a lot of information out there about these assessments. Don't make yourself crazy. Always look to the person who wrote the test for authoritative information about the test. So all of the resources that I will give out today, in fact, let me just go grab one for the Casper right now. I always want to refer you to the original source. So for example, I just put in the chat a link to the Casper webinar to help you prep. And there, Casper actually has some practice modules. So you can do these in advance to get a sense of what they look like. Let's see, back to our timeline. There's a fee, and this Casper will include Duet, which I'm going to go into in a minute. If you received fee assistance, that'll be honored. And if you need accommodations, you can let them know as well, at least 3 weeks before the due date. It takes them a little minute to get this all processed, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So my advice is go ahead and do this on the early side. Your results will stay good for one whole cycle. So as you're preparing for the Casper, you've been working in hybrid mode and doing things online for a long, long time. You probably don't need me to reiterate these sort of things, but go ahead and verify your account information, your test date and time. Oh, I probably should have yellow boxed this notice. All the times for Casper will be Eastern time. So I've seen a lot of people panic about the time of the test. Make sure that weeks in advance you truly understand that time and have it in your calendar. Automated calendars, like not going to name any software names, but they might occasionally think they're smarter than you and readjust a time to a time zone for you. Make sure that you yourself, the human, know that time of that test, and that you're ready for it, and that you know the time zone that your test is happening in. Assessment, it's not a test. On the day, you'll log in and complete a system check. You'll have a look at the format. I've given you the practice. Find a quiet place, of course, look sharp, and make sure you have all the right equipment. You've been working online for a while now, right? So a desktop or a laptop won't work on tablets and phones and things. Make sure that your microphone and your camera are working, and make sure you've got solid Wi-Fi. Tips for video responses are like keeping your eyes up, walking into that space like you're already walking the halls of your future professional school. Show up with your authenticity and the kind of energy that you bring to meeting your classmates on the first day. A pro tip for the Casper is to prep the prep. The format of these situational judgment tests is that you get a question, you get a little time to prepare, and you get a little time to answer. And so if I were going to emphasize one thing, I'd emphasize that prep time. In our MMI practice with you, we will do a lot of real life situations of like giving you questions and then giving you some time to think about it and then some time to answer. That time to think about it is your time to just like ride the wave of all the feeling, like those feelings come, but you know they go. And also take time to learn how to answer those questions quickly. If I were running through a list of potential MMI or Casper preview or Kira type questions, I would emphasize the ability to quickly read that question and get busy outlining your answer so that when you're in the part of the assessment where you're giving your answer, you know you've got your outline done. The way Casper format works is you'll get 14 scenarios, like I said, a real world situation with an ethical dilemma. The scenarios can come at you in two different ways. They can either be word-based or video-based. And then your responses back can go out in two different ways. You might give a video response or you might give a typed response. So if you can picture a Punnett square of scenario, either video or typed, and answer either video or typed, you can get any combination. You could have a video-based question with a video response, a video-based question with a typed response, a word-based question with a video response, or a word-based question with a typed response. All of those scenarios are included. All of those ways to answer the scenarios are included. The whole Casper takes about 90 to 110 minutes. It has breaks built in. And you might like to know that it's scored by actual humans. Yeah, I've talked about this a little bit, but just to like slow it down and reiterate, on the day of your Casper assessment, read the questions fully and plan your responses. Respond to all of the questions. Remember, that's the most important thing. Answer the question. Take time to fully respond. They'll give you 14 scenarios in the Casper. And so if you don't fully finish a thought in a scenario, don't worry. The next one is a totally new start. It's rated by a totally new rater. So that's an opportunity for you to make a new impression. And like I put in the chat, there are samples that you can look at. And I encourage you to go directly to the publisher to get those samples. All right, the rating will be done by humans, very similar to multiple mini interviews. You have 14 independent raters. That allows you to make an impression on 14 different people. The raters are compassionate. They're trained to ignore errors in spelling and grammar. They know that you're under time pressure. They're also trained to be aware of variations in accent, linguistics, dialect, um, and yeah, and regional differences in speaking. Um, their scoring is based on your justification and ethics, not on those technicalities of how you communicate. And there's no right or wrong answer. So answer from your experience how you would behave in the real world. All right, I'm just quickly going to run through Duet since it is attached to Casper. Duet is a measure of fit, and it compares what an applicant values in a program to what the program has to offer. It will walk you through 3 categories and 7 characteristics. You'll get 10 chances to reflect and select on a category that's most important to you. It's not timed, but it only takes about 15 minutes in most people's experience. And you'll take it, it's ideal to take it within 14 days of Casper so that those results get sent to your professional schools together. Duet works by giving you an introduction, an opportunity to reflect on 7 characteristics, and then work your way through 21 comparisons of each of 3 categories. So it's, I don't know, I think of it like a little bit like that test you take at the optometrist, like this one or that one, this one or that one. And then, yeah, you'll hit submit. So it's really just about what you would like, what you are bringing to your school and how you fit with potential schools in terms of values. No need to practice or prepare. Just go with your gut. There's no right or wrong answer in Duet. All right, moving on to the preview. This is the professional readiness exam. It's very much like Casper in that it's another series of hypothetical scenarios that you might encounter as a med student. It examines, it gives you a chance to evaluate a series of behavioral responses to each scenario. You'll register in your AAMC account, and the test dates are March to October if you take it online. In general, you can plan for it to be 75 minutes long with 30 scenario sets. Again, it's reviewed by a human. There's a human proctoring your behavior while you're online doing the assessment. And this one takes about 30 days to receive the scores. This one is only for people who are applying MD. It's an AAMC assessment and doesn't apply to other fields like DO, dentistry, or veterinary. I hope that if you've been engaging with HPA up to now, we've had a chance to talk with you about the core competencies. Those are professional skills that your professional schools will like to see you walking in the door with. There are things like reliability and dependability, teamwork, social skills, cultural competence, service orientation. Have a look at the AAMC for a full list of your core competencies. Oops, I meant to give you a couple more links. Grab those right now. Just lost my chat. There it goes. Here's a link to Duet for practice. And then here's what I really wanted to give you right now is some sample preview questions, a guide, and practice exams. So the preview format is, again, scenarios that give you hypothetical dilemmas similar to what you might run into in med school. The scenarios don't assume that you've been to med school or that you have any direct experience with medical school. They will rate you on the effectiveness of several behaviors that describe the response to a dilemma. So they'll give you 30 scenarios, and basically they'll ask you to rank possible responses in terms of how effective those are. And I put in the chat a link to samples of the test day experience and a booklet. Yeah, so this is how preview will appear to you. It'll give you a scenario, and then it will say, all right, let's rank this response on a scale from very ineffective to very effective. And I'll just give you a minute to read. All right, moving on now to Kira. This is the fourth of 4 assessments that we're going to talk about today. Kira is, again, very similar to a multiple mini interview. It's made up of 2 types of assessment. You'll know if you're taking the Kira, if your school that you've applied to invites you to participate. Each school will choose if they're using Kira. Some do, some don't. And each school will decide if they're going to have an asynchronous assessment or a live interview. Once you've been invited, you can look into Kira and learn more about and get a little practice with the type of assessment that you're expecting. So the way that an asynchronous assessment works is it's like a one-way interview, okay? So you submit a timed video or a written response to questions that are pre-recorded by the school. Same as before, there will be designated amounts of time to like read and think through your prep, and then a set amount of time to respond. Those will appear in a like lighted countdown box on your page when you're doing the assessment online. If you have the live interview version, that's like a two-way interview. So you'll be connected to a live interviewer, and you'll move through stations automatically. And the same thing will be true, that there will be designated prep and response time. So you'll see the countdown timer going as you're working through outlining your answer, and you'll see the countdown timer going as you're giving your response. So how to prepare for Kira? Come practice for MMIs with us. That's how you prepare. So practice common questions. Just be yourself. Again, walk in with that energy, like, I'm glad to meet you. I am fully worthy of being in this institution. be your best self, let your sense of humor show up, let your smile be there. Do what you need to do to like work out to be in a good state, right? If that's going for a walk in the morning or doing some grounding exercises to make sure that you show up as your best self. All the setup is pretty much the same as I was running through when I was talking about the Casper. So you've been working online for a while. Update your software, close everything you don't need, have your equipment ready. Again, it won't work on portable devices, mobile devices. Dress for success and make sure you've got good lighting and some quiet. Allow about 30 minutes for the check-in time. And samples are available online. Let me grab those for you. There you go, some samples of the Kira. All right, you've seen this slide before, but I thought it would be worth popping it back in at this point. Like I said, we do a lot here at HPA to help you prepare for MMIs, which stands for multiple many interviews. So for the Casper and the Kira, you'll summarize what you read, answer the question, that's important, share a story from your life that illustrates you solving this kind of ethical dilemma if one comes to mind, and then highlight the relevance to your future career. When I am in your program, I will. When I am in this profession, I will. Again, here is a shout out for our future programming. We'll be going through lots of questions and helping you prepare. All right, as always, I hope that you will stay connected with HPA. Here is a QR code if that's convenient for you, or I will drop our contact information here again in the chat. If you're watching this as a recorded session, thank you for being here. For those of you that came in person today, I super appreciate you. I know that this is a valuable resource and I'm glad that you're using it, but of course I don't want you to get all your advising just from a recording. So take note of the questions that this brought up for you and come on into Health Professions Advising, make an appointment with us, or come to our drop-ins, meet us at an event. We would like to connect with you individually and support you through your programming. And we're really proud to say that we're here for all current students, undergraduate and graduate, and that we can keep being your advisors even after you graduate, all the way through your application process. We would like to be there for you. All right, so hello, you have a friend here at HPA. I hope to see you again soon.